BOMA Greater Dallas is pleased to present this webinar titled, Using This Time for Big Ticket Projects. We welcome all of you to the program. My name is Jacqueline Bird, BOMA Greater Dallas's Secretary Treasurer. I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Please note that today's call is being recorded and all participants will be muted during the broadcast. However, you can enter a question for us in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen at any time during today's presentation, and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. If you're listening to the audio only and do not have access to the chat box, you may submit your questions to cbransford@bomadallas.org, and we will address your questions afterward. Before we get started, I'd like to thank our BOMA Greater Dallas Keystone partners for their support. America's Corporate Building Maintenance, Blackman Mooring and BMS CAT, Britain Building Maintenance, CertaPro Painters of Far North Texas, Citywide Building Services, Flynn Companies, Property Paving, Reef Parking, Texas Roof Management, and United Mechanical. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today's panel. Today we have with us Cindy Cullum of CertaPro Painters of Far North Texas, Kelly Lee with Texas Roof Management, George Schaefer with Reef Parking, and Tyler Lee with Empire Roofing and Waterproofing. That's Tyler Lee with Empire Roofing and Waterproofing. While we may cover legal issues, this is not legal advice. Further, due to the rapidly changing nature of the law and the COVID-19 crisis, we recommend you consult with your legal counsel on this issue before you implement or change any policies or procedures. During today's webinar, we will answer questions submitted during the online registration. As we had a number of submissions, we apologize if we don't get to your specific question. As we get started, I think the first thing I'd like to do is just have each of you give us a 30-second introduction of yourself and about you and your company. So I'll start with George.
Hi, my name is George Schaefer. I am the Regional Vice President for Reef Parking. I actually spent 21 years in Seattle, moved here to Dallas, and I'm excited to be in charge of the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Parking is an interesting thing right now, and we're working hard to try to stay on top of it.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing what you have to share. How about Cindy?
I am Cindy Cullum with CertaPro. I am originally from Hawaii. That's my tidbit. I've been here for a long time, though, so I'm a Texan now. And we do interior and exterior painting of commercial and residential.
Awesome. Tyler?
Tyler Lee with Empire Roofing and Waterproofing. Yes, Kelly Lee is my father. We are father, son, and competitor. So I do project management and run most of our large scale projects, including on a national basis. So.
Interesting. How about Kelly?
Kelly Lee with Texas Roof Management. We're a woman-owned business, I guess is the biggest thing about us. I've been in business for about 24 years. I've been with Texas Roof Management for the last 6 years, but like Tyler says, I'm third generation and he's fourth generation in the roofing business.
Oh, awesome. Well, again, thank you all for being here today. We're so glad to have you with us to answer a few questions that many of us in commercial real estate are having. One of the first questions I want to throw at you is to really learn a little bit more about you and your company is what new or unique adaptation has your company had to make to provide service because of coronavirus concerns? Kelly?
I'll start. Well, you know, when all this first started occurring, you had to read the new rules every day. We did a lot of seminars, a lot of online stuff, webinars with lawyers to understand what to do and how to make our company work. And then we implemented almost on a daily basis how our field operations could continue to work out there safely and do this. We immediately cut office staff and did rotating days on office staff. Only certain people came in at certain times, and we've been doing that up until Monday since the laws have changed again. And as we go into next week, we're doing a phased in back approach, and that we're going to go to 3 days a week, separate days. You pick the days, and then we're going to go into 2 to 3 weeks down the road, bring everybody back in and operate like we've been operating. It's not slowed us down very much, though. We've continued to work and actually have probably done more work since this started because the weather's been great for us. So.
Wow, that's great. How about, okay, George?
I can jump in there. One of the keys within the parking industry is there are so many things that you touch. Touch a meter, touch a machine, valets hand off keys. And so one of the things we've implemented is a touchless system, a mobile app system that eliminates meters, that eliminates you having to touch any kind of a device. So that's something we've implemented. And then within our valet structure, implementing gloves, hand sanitizer. We've actually, I should have bought stock in the glove company. We change them in between every single valet move. And so these are just, I think as Kelly said, these are evolving processes where you look at it every single day and you say, how do we do this today to keep people from interacting or keep people from touching each other or having to touch something that you can't wipe down every second?
Yeah. How about you guys, Cindy?
One thing that we've done is went to remote estimating, using a lot of FaceTime and video type of aspects, but also just working with our customers on what they're comfortable with, with gloves and masks and so forth. No handshakes anymore, different ways to greet each other, and just working within what they're comfortable doing and what we're comfortable doing, just to keep everybody safe on both sides.
Wow, interesting. That kind of picture estimating is interesting. Tyler, how about you guys?
Sort of echoing what everyone said, it's constant adaptation. Me and my corporate risk director are in constant communication and adapting as we go. My superintendents and everyone are still working out of the office, so we have spread them out. Production meetings I go do in our 50-person training room instead of our 10-person conference room. So also implemented, it's the sourcing of the PPE out there, trying to get additional masks, gloves, thermometers, I think was our biggest challenge, but we got those. We are scanning our guys every morning to make sure that they do not have a temperature. That was already implemented by a couple of our other customers already before that became a mandate for Dallas County. So
That's interesting.
I think that's remaining fluid. I think it's the best thing you can go do through all this, but it's going to go change on you.
Interesting. Yes. Well, as we talk about the big ticket items, with what we're all experiencing, we're interested in knowing what percentage of owners are really spending money at this time. Are you finding of your customers that, it's still business as usual, or have you found that owners are backing off a bit?
We have about probably 50% of our customers are continuing and kind of taking advantage of the low traffic and whatnot. Being able to do a lot of exteriors, parking garages, and busy condo and real retail areas have been on the plus side good for us right now.
That's good. Anyone else seeing anything different than the 50-50?
Yeah, we are basically ahead of where we were last year. Nobody really stopped. One of the things that the virus has done is that it's given us the opportunity to do projects faster. We're doing a large private school in the tornado damage area. And when you have no students on that campus, it allowed us to actually ramp up and do more work. And in this particular project, it's a 9-month project, and we're probably about 60 days ahead of where we would have been with kids on the campus out there. So those advantages are out there, and that's what we're trying to get our customers to think about. We're going to start schoolwork pretty soon. We're actually going to start it a month early now because the kids aren't in the school in Richardson. So there are advantages for the customers to keep business going for us out there.
So you're finding most of your customers are actually spending money right now. So that's
still
good.
Going. I think our concern is next year. I don't know that it's this year. I think it's next year.
And we'll talk a little bit about that too later. George?
I don't think that our customers are spending as much money. We're seeing small projects. We're seeing some things that are happening. The parking is significantly down. And so I think that that revenue stream that was projected has been taking a real strong hit. And so we're not seeing an extensive cash flow spend within the parking industry. There's some minor projects going on. We have a few larger projects that we've partnered with, but not on the whole, it's down.
Okay, how about you, Tyler?
We're fortunate enough that we have a very diverse portfolio of clients. We're seeing probably about a 15 to 20% decline, and that's coming mostly from our retail clients. But then I also have a large shopping center that I'm doing that was storm damage, which again, it's like the school with my dad. They've been allowed sort of free access that would have been way harder. And yeah, we have probably cut 30 days off the project right now, which was projected to last into September. So a lot of our Fortune 500 company and clients that we work for, they have the cash reserves and they are spending it because we can go do stuff while they're out. Much as I don't like to say it, roofing is dirty and loud and smelly. So we're getting advantage to getting to take advantage of that at this time.
That's good. That's good. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the timing things as well. But right now, I want to ask you the question, what are the most popular big ticket items that are being requested from property managers from your company? Of those that you are seeing, what's been most popular?
Roofing, most important.
No, painting.
Roof replacement, or is it roof replacement, or is it come on in and do those annual repairs?
We're seeing a lot of both right now. Our service is up. Our re-roof, I guess, end of March, got a little wishy-washy with owners. I think they collected a whole lot more in rent than they were anticipating going into April. So going through April, we saw sort of an increase in customers wanting to make decisions now because we are able to go offer them a little bit of a discount because I'm not having to put the overtime in for night work or weekend work while we are impacting their tenants.
Thanks. I think, Cindy, were you about to answer as well?
Yeah, no, painting is more important. We're trying to have our customers kind of take advantage of, because no traffic eliminates after hour work and weekend, because there's sometimes an upcharge for that. So it allows us to work during the day and like everyone's saying too, just progressing a lot faster.
Awesome.
And I think within the garages, there are very few times when you get a really good long look at a garage when it's empty. 1,000-car garage, and to have that 1,000-car garage sit empty for an extended period of time, where you can look at it, you can look at the structure, you can look at the equipment, you can look at the flow and make changes to that otherwise you won't have the time or resource or space to make those changes. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at, is that ability to redesign garages and have those long looks and long times that you can do that where you wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah. Another question that we want to ask is, we understand that with the whole COVID-19 crisis, the budgets are being cut and owners are looking for ways to save. So the question for you guys is, are you offering any sort of creative pricing or cost amortization that would incentivize property owners into moving forward with those capital improvement expenses?
I can jump on that one too, if you'd like. Yeah, we actually just flipped a lot in Fort Worth, where we went to that owner. Again, I talked about the touchless system. We capitalized all the costs to replace the systems, to brand it, to sign it. There was no cash outlay for that owner, and we spent all that capital and then amortized it over the period of the contract. And so the company is able to do things like that. I think that's a huge opportunity where you want to make changes, the time there to make changes, the space is there to make changes, and where it makes business sense to do it, or we can have a long-term relationship, we've been able to do those things.
That's good. That's good. Kelly?
We always have done something like that or some sort of means of that. Not used it a whole lot, but it's available for us out there. But recently we had a large church, and again, churches are empty, that needed a roof, and they were a little short on the money, and we actually discounted it a little bit, and then we took part of the money and we sort of financed it for them throughout the end of the year. So they had the bulk of the money, but we let them work on raising the rest of the money, and you know, they have a harder time raising money now than they ever have. So we sort of financed them through the end of the project as well.
Awesome. That's very interesting. It's good to hear that, you know, vendors and contractors are thinking about that and are making ways to assist owners with what could be difficult decisions that are strictly based on finances.
We're also offering like 10% discounts for people to book early, because, you know, eventually when everything opens up, we'll be more busy. So if we get them to actually book before, you know, the early June, then we're offering that kind of incentive.
Those discount incentives are important too. So if we're going to start a project with you for your services that you offer, what would you say the top 3 things that we should consider prior to doing so?
I think one of the things that is absolutely critical as you start these projects is, are there natural breakpoints? Are there natural places within the project that as life comes back to normal as we know it, that the project doesn't have to stop, or the project doesn't derail, or the plan derails because people return? And I think building a project in where up front you are loading it with the things that have to be empty or when people aren't there, and leaving the components for where there's a presence for when that returns. I think if you set up a project for a significant period of time with no natural transitions to having people return, I think you're going to run into some challenges as they return to how to manage that project.
Yeah, I can see that. It's really difficult to refit a parking lot when people are in there. So, and
Amen.
once you get started, it's hard to change your trajectory as well. So,
right. So for that, it would be floor by floor. You have to look at it and say, okay, we're going to do this floor. We expect a 25% return. Let's move vehicles to another floor. Let's do that floor. But if you destroy all the floors and you have no capability to move anyone anywhere, you're in trouble. And I think that's part of the partnership that the vendors bring, that expertise.
that's good. That's good.
I think managing the expectations just in light of the safety and you know, what the interactions are, not only with the customer, but with their customers, depending on the facility, is what's the expectation between the crews and you know, keeping everyone healthy and whatnot throughout the time.
Yeah, and we realize that, you know, each contractor is going to do all that it can to keep people safe, but I can tell you from experience that once the tenants are back in the space, they're going to be watching too. So setting that expectation is going to be, like you said, very, very important. If I can go to another question, you guys have somewhat answered this, but maybe someone else wants to chime in on it. So many owners have put their projects on hold because of the pandemic. One of you said 50% is doing it, 50% is not. Do you expect busier than usual, it to be busier than usual once everything goes back to like normal-ish? And if so, how should we plan for that?
Do we expect? Yes, we hope it is.
We hope.
Yes. We're bidding more now than ever. We have a lot of stuff projected for end of summer work, middle of summer work. So yeah, we're doing everything in our power. We have been fortunate enough not to have to lay anybody off. Some of my industry friends around the nation have had to. So keeping the guys busy right now in preparation for blow and go come summer.
But I think, like I said before, just trying to incentivize people to get on the front end when we can get to their projects faster and complete faster, versus when normal, whatever that looks like, happens when more and more people are going to be.
That's a lot of these big ticket items have been budgeted for the past 3 to 4 years. So most likely that money's sitting in the account. So yes, let's go spend it now I know we're all cautiously optimistic right now, but go spend it now with us. We can save you money, get it done quicker.
And I think, from a maintenance perspective, like George was saying, because without people there, more things are visible. So for maintenance, definitely. Capital improvement, that's probably kind of in question.
I think
Well,
Kelly, you were
I
going to
think the
answer.
fascinating- I'm sorry, Jacqueline. I think the fascinating thing is, at least with us in the parking industry, we don't know what normalish is going to look like. How many people are still going to telecommute? How many companies have said, wow, that really worked, not having to have all those seats and chairs. So for us, it's every day evolving, transitioning. What other use cases do we have? What other ideas for revenue generation can we bring? Because I don't have a roof to put on. I don't have a paint to do. I don't have those things that have to happen. Mine is totally reliant on, do people return? And if they don't return, what do I do, or what do I offer those property owners as another revenue stream for that valuable space?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we're having one of the best years we've ever had. And again, I think Tyler hit on it. A lot of the projects we do are budgeted, and the money's there, and they're spending the money and everything. We find service and maintenance to be way up right now because people are trying to extend the lives of their roofs and various things like that. And that's what service and maintenance does. My concern as one of the main people of the company is that when we come out of this, and companies that have lost so much money, do they get very cautious and not spend their budgets for next year? And so we're looking at 2021 because 2020 has been a good year. So are people not going to do things that they had budgeted for next year? So that's where we're being extremely cautious, is what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, you make a really good point, because they're watching money now, but everybody is going to be watching it from here forward even more than they had before. And to that point, we're getting really close to budget season, where it's usually around mid-year or so that people begin to look at their budgets. And so they're going to be looking for ways that you guys can help them save money, plan appropriately, to get what those most important projects are to them done. So it's good to hear that you guys are thinking about these things and planning for that as well. A question I have for you guys is that, should we expect any changes in lead times for products that are related to the type of service that you provide? I've heard in other instances with GCs that there may be some lead time issues. Are you experiencing that now, or do you anticipate that for later?
We don't.
All our manufacturers of the systems that we use, one of the first things they did was say, we are a viable business. We're working. We're still producing. We can get anything you need out there. It's not been a problem right now. So it's been good for us. So, but again, I'm very cautious because you don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of our manufacturers did, if a component of that final product was sourced non-domestically, they went and found domestic sources for that backup. So I've had zero supply chain issues.
That's good. That's good. I mean, it kind of leads to what my next question was going to be, and that was about if you anticipate a change in how or where you actually source your supplies going forward. So do you see, changes in where you get it, whether it's in the U.S. or outside of the U.S.?
No.
No?
Ours have been all local, so it's
All local. So a question that, of course, everyone's asking, we hit on this a little bit, but more specifically, what safety measures are your staff taking during this time? And, and as far as going forward as well.
I think for us, it's PPE as we interact with people within the parking community. Gloves, hand sanitizer. We've changed some of the processes and how we handle flow of people and those interactions of people to avoid any kind of contact. And some of the, again, looking at non-contact kind of resources. So, those are the processes that we're using. We get a daily update on kind of company direction and company directives for operating safely. And we've actually been in situations where we've had to say, hey, we now need to realign how we do business because it is not a safe environment to move this vehicle or that vehicle, and work with the customer to come up with an alternative solution to somewhere where we valeted vehicles before.
Wow, interesting.
I would say those that know Empire and have seen our trucks out, they're always clean. They're even cleaner right now. They're getting sanitized every night. We've converted our typical 5-gallon jugs into hand washing stations for our guys. We went and bought over 10 pallets of water, about 10,000 bottles of water when all this first hit. So we're using single-use containers. Right now is probably our biggest things.
Yeah.
Than just the PPE that we always have on. So.
Yeah, Tyler, we did the same thing with the hand washing on a roof is just unheard of, but we found a way to do it cheaply and simple and built hand washing stations on roofs, bottled water, of course. We had one project where the person doing the thermometer testing, an outside party, actually had COVID-19, and we were lucky that our crews were not on the job that day. So we've actually, sent letters out to that general contractor and said, we can't work on your project for 14 days, and then we'll reevaluate it at the end of 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem about working on new construction right now, is you have so many other trades up there. And we're doing building downtown. There's 350 employees working on that one project. So you think about trying to separate, and they all have to have punch-in numbers. They all have to have their temperature taken every morning. And we've put, if they're not doing it, we put somebody from our company that's their job, record temperatures, do all that stuff. Again, it was a growing thing. We started with simple rules, and we have pages of rules now. And we actually do toolbox topics on a weekly basis on what's new, procedures to follow, and OSHA and all this stuff. We're more concerned that if you get COVID-19 and you expose your employees to that, it's a recordable incident now. Not like the flu is, but this is a recordable incident. So we have to make sure we protect all our employees from everything.
That's good. I was reading through the OSHA regulations and definitely saw exactly what you're saying. So.
Well, the important thing to look at that I've been working with our safety director on is that these are actually technically just guidelines right now from OSHA. These are not official laws. So while yes, we are following all of them, they are technically not enforceable.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to the legal side of this, and that's above all of our pay grades, I think. We got teams for that, but that's what we started looking at, the actual technicalities. Yes, we are doing it, but is OSHA going to come up and try to fine you for not having a hand wash station or something like that? We have not seen that happening even on a national level with our company. So
I can imagine when you're doing roofing, especially on new construction, as Kelly was saying, there's so many people there. And when you start a job, people are crawling all over each other. And when you're ending a job, people are crawling all over each other. And now everyone has to be distanced. And so you guys have some special considerations that you have to take just from the nature of what you do. I'm wondering with Cindy, if your team and George, if your team is finding any difficulty at all, because it's almost the opposite with painters. If you don't see painters on top of each other.
I think overall, we're just taking, like everyone, just the safety precautions as best we can. We've had all our teams, our crews are behind, following these rules. So I think overall it hasn't caused us any issue at this point. So.
Okay, good. And George?
I think the biggest challenge we have is in the valet world, where the handing off and the taking and passing of vehicles, and trying to keep those people separated, trying to keep that flow and that interaction and how those things get handled. That's our biggest challenge that we've really spent a lot of time setting up the processes and the procedures. And there's no handbook. There's no handbook for any of this. You make it up as you go.
We're writing it.
And that worked really, really well, or, oh, let's not do that again.
Yeah. I want to break for just a moment and just let our participants know that if you have any questions, do go ahead and put those in the chat box or the Q&A box right now, and we'll get to those in just a moment, because I'm really kind of winding up, and I have a question for you guys. It's probably going to be the hardest question anybody's ever asked you. So let me take a moment to see if anything's popping up in the chat box anymore. And as I'm not seeing anything right now, let me just go to this question. What is the one positive thing that has come out of this strange time for you, either personally or professionally?
So for me personally has been, a college student at home now, a high school student at home now. My husband working from home is just juggling internet bandwidth, but also, and I'm sort of lucky, as I say, I have been coming to the office to not have to deal with that, but just, and in general, you can only watch so much TV, so a lot more intentional family time has been good.
That's good. That's good. George?
I would agree. Personally, I've spent a ton of time walking through the community with my wife. Instead of eating lunch at my desk, which happens into normal circumstances, they get up and we've taken walks and just had some good conversations. I think professionally, it's really allowed me to challenge the norm, to look at new things, to look at a new way to do things. Whereas previously somebody might say, that's not the way it's done. I think people are open now. So it's been exciting and it's been fun to come up with new ideas and new challenges. So I think it taxes your brain as kind of a leader to have an answer. So that's been a fun challenge, kind of a blank canvas right now.
That is a fun challenge. Kelly?
Yeah, I work from home. I have the underlying health risk, so I work from home about 3 days a week. But I've actually been on a lot of roofs, so it's been strange for me. But we have a new puppy. One of the good things is that we've had the opportunity to really train him and teach him tricks and do all that
Really?
stuff. He's still a wild dog. But
You never let Tyler have a dog.
yeah, me and the dogs can sit on the back deck with the little fireplace and have a drink and talk to each other. So we've learned to know each other quite well. My wife and I take long walks when we can, which has been nice. And it's only us since we got rid of all these kids we used to have, which is even better. And I agree on the having to work at this as a manager or as a professional in this business. Man, every day's a new day to us now. We have to read things, we have to research things. We have an outside HR department that we talk to almost constantly, and we're trying to do everything to be as perfect as we can through this in an imperfect world. So that challenge is sort of fun. There is a little bit of excitement with that, and that you want to be the best that you can be to make sure everybody's protected and taken.
That's awesome, Kelly. Tyler, you want to share with us?
I would say personally, my beard's gotten a lot longer, so miss my barber, but it's grown, so that's good. I reached my goal. Now I just need to get it cut. But so my office is in Fort Worth, and I live in Dallas, and most of my jobs are on the Dallas side. So I've gone from using 2 to 3 tanks of gas a week to down to 1 to 2 tanks of gas. So saving on toll roads, stuff along that line, I would drastically have cut that down, being able to work remotely from my house for part of it, coming to the office 2 to 3 days a week as well. And also just the telecommuting as a whole. I pre-conned a job up in Virginia sitting at my office here and had another person 500 miles away on the same pre-con. So we're learning how to go pre-con jobs, easier with not having to gather everybody on site and travel. So
That's good. That's a lot of good positive actions happening during this time. I think, you know, there is definitely an excitement of doing something, even though it's a challenge because of coronavirus. Everybody gets to do something different right now, don't we? And so that makes it more interesting, that makes it more challenging, and in a lot of ways makes it a lot more fun as well. Listen, guys, I want to thank you for being our panel and sharing your time and expertise with us. You guys are awesome. I also want to take this time to thank everyone out there for joining us today and for all of those who submitted questions. And then finally, I want to give many thanks to our BOMA Greater Dallas Keystone Partners for their support. Again, they're America's Corporate Building Maintenance, Blackman Mooring and BMS CAT, Britton Building Maintenance, CertaPro Painters of Far North Texas, Citywide Building Services, Flynn Companies, Property Paving, Reef Parking, Texas Roof Management, and United Mechanical. And then finally, again, we know that there's so much information that you need, and we'll hold weekly webinars on topics related to COVID-19. Our next webinar is Monday, May 4th, and will cover recommendations from BOMA Greater Dallas's Task Force on Reentry. Information on this webinar can be found on the BOMA Greater Dallas website under the event calendar. And until we see you guys again, have a good day, and thank you.
Good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should get it.